Hi folks, I'm Nikki from the University of Wolverhampton in Stafford, and throughout this period of uncertainty I'm going to be bringing you a series of online tutorials aimed at keeping an element of creativity in your homeschooling curriculum. If we can't look after our mental health by spending time outside, let's do it by enhancing our creativity. Today's tutorial on colour theory and mixing will be useful in so many ways. It's aimed at key stages 3 to 4, but having taught A-level for many years, it's surprising how many people never learn this really useful information. Whether you're painting, drawing, felting or designing your new bedroom, this will come in handy in so many ways. There are various models of colour theory, but the simplest and most commonly used is the red, blue, yellow colour wheel. This starts with the aforementioned primary colours, colours that can't be mixed. To join in with this tutorial, you will need paper, or card or cardboard, a ruler or straight edge, something circular to draw around or a compass, a pencil, your chosen medium, anything that you can mix. This could be paint, pastel, coloured pencil, even collage ripped up bits of paper if you have patience. Most of us have the time. You'll only need red, yellow, blue, black, and unless you're using watercolour, white. I'll be using acrylic paint. To make a colour wheel, draw a circle and divide it into quarters, then again into eighths. Imagine you're sketching out the Union flag. In your chosen medium, fill one of your segments in red. Leave 2 spaces, then fill the next in blue. Leave 2 more spaces and fill the next in yellow. Now you're going to want to colour outside the lines, spilling into the next segment. Where there are 2 spaces, you'll want to use a lot of colour in the first and less in the second. Then do the same with the other colour. If you do so gradually, you should be able to achieve a gradient from one colour to the next. Now we should have 2 greens made by using the same 2 primary colours in varied quantities. Do this with the remaining colours. Now you have a colour wheel comprised of both primary and secondary colours. A secondary colour being a colour mixed from 2 primary colours, green, orange and purple. You'll see that each of these colours hold a series of relationships to one another. The colours that sit to either side of a chosen colour are harmonies or analogous. These can be used to generate monochromatic colour schemes, often used in the interior design or graphic design. Think about how we made our gradient. The colours falling opposite one another are known as complementary colours, creating the strongest possible contrast. The complement of one primary colour is made by mixing the other 2 primary colours together, so red and green, blue and orange, yellow and purple. Complementary colours when used side by side make each other appear brighter, which is useful to draw attention to certain areas of a composition. Blue and orange, for example, are often used in cinematic posters, whereas one of my favourite films, Amélie, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, uses red and green to great effect. We can combine primary and secondary, including complementary colours, to make tertiary colours. For example, red plus orange equals red-orange. The trick is to use a full amount of the primary and half the amount of the secondary. We'll come back to tertiary colours later. There are of course certain colours that can't be mixed using this method, and it does all depend on which red, blue or yellow that we actually start out with. True turquoise, for example, we can't mix without actual use of the precious stone. But we can come quite close by mixing certain blues and greens together. But what happened to pink, I hear you ask? Pink is not in fact a colour, it's a tint of the colour red. A tint is the name that we use for a colour with white added to it. If we add black to a colour, this is called a shade. So what do we get if we add black and white to a colour? Here we are adding a neutral grey to a colour, so this is known as a tone. We are effectively both tinting and shading. This just reduces the chroma or colourfulness, basically knocking back the glare. Grey, as most people know it, is actually a tone, not a colour. By mixing black and white together, we get what we know as a neutral grey. This is not a grey that appears in nature. It might be a fashionable colour to paint your walls in, but it's not something to use in a landscape painting. I know what you're thinking. There are loads of greys in nature. What about elephants and squirrels and koalas and typical British skies? Well, this is where we return to tertiary colours. By mixing a primary colour with half saturation of its complementary colour, we get a colour grey. These are the greys seen in nature.
So red with half the amount of green makes, yes I know, most of us know this as sludgy horrible brown, but try tinting or toning it. Add white or black. Let's try blue and orange. And yellow and purple.
If you don't believe that these are the components of the colours that we see in nature, let's take a look at some photos. Pixelation, when we zoom all the way in on an image, helps to demonstrate colour theory really well. Pixelation is actually just modern day impressionism.
Here's a picture of my grey Dutch rabbit Ardy. If we zoom in, here's a rhino, a lemur, a hippo. I've never photographed an elephant. And here's a photo of my baby girl Kite on a rock demonstrating a typical British sky. Rock, sky.
Colour greys. More natural greys made from a primary colour and its complementary colour, or colour opposite. This theory involving colour greys and complementary colours played an important part in the work of the Impressionists, who noted that shadow isn't neutral. Rather, it's the complementary colour of the light generating it.
In Monet's Woman Seated on a Bench, for example, violet shadow and yellow sunlight are evidenced if we zoom in on the crease of her arm, or the shadow at her feet.
Here's a little exercise to help you visualise the colours opposite. It's a kind of optical illusion.
Stare firmly at the square that appears on your screen. Try to look through it. Almost cross your eyes. Now keep your eye fixed on this point as we switch to a plain white screen. You should see the square in negative. Something like this. Now let's try the same thing with blue. Which should give orange. And yellow, which should give purple. You can always pause the video if you need longer.
The colours that you see will be pale as the white background generates a tint. Just imagine the colour at full strength. There's your opposite. I hope you found this tutorial useful and that next time you come to work with colour, this helps to inform your decisions. Follow our Facebook page for more creative tutorials for all ages, coming soon.